Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to wearefree.tv, the channel of the people, by the people, for the people, where anyone is welcome to come along and say whatever they wish and discuss any subject, no matter how extreme and controversial, because we are totally independent thanks to your very kind donations. We have our own infrastructure, our own server, our own traffic, our own foundation from which we are able to keep ourselves totally independent, away from the censoring bodies that we all know, where we used to host ourselves, but not anymore, since they are not always happy with the freedom of speech which is encouraged in this on this channel. So thank you very much for all your donations, extremely important. We have a Telegram group which is called No Censorship TV. Highly recommended that you join. There's no talking and chit chat there, just links to every new English speaking interview that we publish. We also have a website called We Are Free TV, and I'd like to show you very quickly how you could very easily go to Google and just type We Are Free TV. Enter, and this is us, the first website. So I click on it, and then you see the Hebrew version, because we're kind of a Israeli-based program. However, we also have an English section here on the left, EN. All you do is click on EN, and then you see all the English interviews, which we do here regularly. And if you click on Join Us, all you need to do is write your name here, your email address, click Submit. You'll get an email asking you to reconfirm your subscription, and that's it. You're on the list, and every time we release a new interview, you're going to be notified by email. So thank you very much for that. And of course, please do share this interview wherever you possibly can, because if you don't share it, no one's going to share it. You're welcome to share it on your Facebook page, on Twitter, on TikTok, on LinkedIn, Twitter. Send it by emails to your friends, on WhatsApp, on Telegram, on every possible platform you can think of. It would be amazing if you could please share this interview. Thank you very much for that. And today our guest is Mr. Kurt Johnson. He is a spiritual teacher, consciousness researcher, and the interview is going to be about twin flames and the technology of consciousness. A talk with Kurt Johnson on twin flames, dark night of the soul, runners, chasers, and more. So, hello there, Kurt. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you, Michael?
I'm amazing. I'm loving it. You know, the fifth dimension, here we come. Or maybe we're already in the fifth dimension. I don't know. It seems to me that I certainly am in many aspects. And I love it. It feels amazing.
The infinite dimension.
The what dimension?
Let's go to the infinite dimension.
What do you mean?
The infinity D.
Oh,
which
that.
Is source.
Yes. So that means like endlessly expanding.
Non-duality. So non-duality. 5D is a thing. And I suppose you could say that 5D is the metaphysical barrier beyond time and form. But of course, my little quip is let's go to the infinity D, the infinity dimension, which is source, which is the self. It's who we are. It's consciousness.
You just said non-duality. Do you mean the Ramana Maharshi non-duality and the Nisargadatta Maharaj non-duality?
That's correct. Non-duality. To understand what I do and what I specialize in is actually very simple. You just have to understand how non-duality, or what I call the singularity, or perhaps source, as it's been called, interacts with duality, which was actually created by non-duality. Non-duality, source, singularity being the prime mover.
That's amazing. I mean, what can I say? I mean, I didn't even expect this, because this is my favorite subject, and I keep bringing it up in every interview when it's relevant. And, I follow a lot of modern non-duality teachers and YouTubers. I'm sure you heard of Rupert Spira and
Mhm.
Muji. And I'll be honest, my favorite
Yeah.
one is Paul Hederman. Do you know him?
Oh no, I've never heard of Paul.
Amazing guy. And he's an
Check
American
him out.
guy, New Yorker, ex-alcoholic. All the
Uh,
best teachers seem to be ex-alcoholics. This the Australian guy, Sailor Bob. I only recently found out he was also an alcoholic. And then there's Fred Davis, who's also amazing, and he's also an ex-alcoholic. There's something about alcohol, I don't know.
yeah, I guess that's not surprising when you think about a spiritual awakening process. Not always, but often, in probably more than half, or well more than half of the time, when a spiritual awakening is triggered in an individual, it begins with a process that has traditionally been called ego death. And of course, in the general spiritual community, the other word for that is dark night of the soul. And this is where you experience a drastic and intense increase in consciousness, which is the soul, which is who you really are, over a very short period of time. And this energy comes in to the total three-part triune being system, body, mind, soul. The energy of consciousness is increased when the ego begins to break apart and melt away. And that is exactly what happens to a person who's undergoing a spiritual awakening process. The ego never really goes away completely. The ego, personality, the mind, sometimes I refer to it as the identity entity, because it's kind of an entity that needs a host. And the person undergoing said spiritual awakening, they do feel different. They do feel lighter. Lots of metaphysical activations take place too. That's extremely commonplace. Telepathic experiences and the like. So that kind of summarizes an ego death. But it's a very painful process because you feel like you're losing your identity, which in a sense you are. For a time, you experience a feeling of meaninglessness. My life is meaningless. And it's because what you used to derive your very sense of self from, the ego personality, is starting to break down, and energetically it diffuses. It's like onion layers falling away.
Yep.
It's an energy body.
Yeah.
And these experiences can be triggered by things like alcoholism coming to a head. Eckhart Tolle, perfect example. He suffered from anxiety and depression, and then it was just kind of like his life situation, the circumstances all just came crashing down all at once, and it was too much, and it broke him. And it is intense suffering, and there's no real useful way to say when the decision is made to end the suffering and begin to enter into the higher consciousness and peace that you really are. But what is often said in the spiritual community is that suffering is necessary until it is not anymore. And so that's why you find people who come from these types of backgrounds. Me personally, not so much. I think I just kind of I suppose what you would call a miniature spiritual awakening. That's what I lovingly refer to it as. When I was about 19 or 20, I embraced Zen, lots of meditation. I started reading books. I had lots of experiences with telepathy and ghosts and out-of-body experiences. And then, that went on for about 5 years. But then I kind of like slumped back into unconscious behavior. So for me, that was, I got into a long-term relationship that really wasn't good for me. I tried to join the corporate world and do that whole bit, climbing my way up the ladder and being a conformist, and it just didn't work. And I already had, I think, what you would call a political awakening, where I became very aware of the true power structures that do govern our world, which are falling away, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Their power is waning.
Yep.